Hey everyone, Dave here for Peace Camera. In this week's video, we're going to talk all about shooting RAW or shooting JPEG. A question I get from a lot of beginning photographers is they're just learning the game, they're getting their first camera. One of the questions they always ask, should I shoot RAW or should I shoot JPEG? So I wanted to go over some of the advantages and disadvantages of each. So let's start off with JPEG. JPEG is like the universal picture, so it can be read by any computer, tablet, phone. You send someone a JPEG, they can go ahead and open up that file. Being that said, so if you're just shooting for snapshots, you're just, pictures that you're going to share on the web real quick, you don't want to do any processing of them, shooting JPEG is fine as it is a compressed image. So when you take a picture with your camera and you look at the image on the back of the screen, what you're actually seeing is a JPEG image that the camera processes. So even if you're shooting RAW, you're going to see a JPEG image on the back of the camera. And also shooting JPEG, if you have smaller card sizes, you can shoot a lot more pictures on one card. So here I have a 32 gig card. I'm going to go ahead and pop that in here. Turn on my camera. I'm going to format the card real quick. So there's three modes of JPEGs that you can shoot on most cameras. That's fine, normal, and basic. And then I would always suggest choosing JPEG fine. It's as low as compressed files. So for example, here on JPEG fine, I can shoot 1,200 pictures on this 32 gig card. If I change this to normal, it goes up to 2,500. And if I shoot it in basic, it goes to 4,900 pictures on this camera. On this card. But I always suggest shooting in JPEG fine, as it's the lowest compression out of all of them. It's the highest quality JPEG. So that's what I would always suggest. I would never suggest using normal or basic. Always use fine. Now, let's talk about shooting RAW. RAW is an uncompressed file. That means you have a lot more latitude. If you want to edit your photos and really tweak them to your desire, shooting RAW is the way to go. Now, just like before, you're going to take up a lot more space on your memory card, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to RAW. And now on that 32 gig card, before we used to get over 1,000 pictures, we can now get 397 RAW images out of this camera. And this is a Nikon D810, which is a 36.3 megapixel camera. So depending on which camera you have and how many megapixels it is, will determine the actual number. So don't take this as a standard of how many shots you're going to get on each card. Now, a disadvantage of shooting RAW is you need to have a program to open it up with, such as Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Lightroom, Photoshop Elements, and there's a few other RAW viewers out there that you'd be able to download. But if you send someone a RAW file and they do not have the software to open up a RAW file, they're not going to be able to see your picture. So once you're done editing your files in, say, Lightroom or Photoshop, then when you export them out, you'll export them out as a JPEG to go ahead and share. RAW gives you the advantages. You have a lot of latitude if you mess something up. So if you underexpose it, your white balance is off. You are going to go ahead and be able to change it in RAW, while in JPEG, since it's a compressed image, you're going to have very little latitude. You can make changes, as you're going to see in a couple of minutes, but you can only change so much as, without starting degrading the image, and you'll get more artifacts or noise in your image. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this camera, I'm going to keep the same settings on here, I'm going to shoot a RAW file, and I'm going to shoot a JPEG, then we're going to bring them here onto the computer, and you'll get to see the difference of what we can do on as far as the editing side. So since I don't have a human subject today, I am going to go ahead and shoot this Rolleiflex twin lens camera, which is a beautiful camera we have here for sale in our used department here. Call us if you'd be interested in taking a look at this camera. So I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to come around on the other side of the counter here, and then I am going to shoot these two pictures. Alright, so now I am going to purposely underexpose the pictures, and I'm also going to do the white balance off. This way you can see what kind of corrections we can make. So I'm going to get a little bit back here, and I can take the shot. So I'm underexposing it by, let's see, what am I going to underexpose it by? 2 full stops. So it's dark. Alright, now I'm going to change the mode to JPEG Fine. Same images, and take the picture. So now we'll take the card out, go ahead, put it in the computer, and you'll see what we have. Alright, so here we are on my computer. I have Adobe Lightroom open. You can see this first shot is the RAW file, and the second shot is the JPEG. You can see they're both very, very dark. So what are we going to be able to do to recover them? So let's start off with the RAW file. I said I underexposed by 2 stops, so I'm going to take the exposure slider, and I'm going to just go ahead and move that up. Couple stops. That's starting to look a little better, maybe a little too bright, but we're going to change that. I can bring the highlights down. I can bring the shadows up. Start making a really nice image. Now I'm not doing a full edit here. I'm just trying to show how much latitude you have. If I click on the white balance setting, you see all the settings I have in camera. So if I want to change this tungsten, make it nice and blue, I can, even though that looks terrible. So we'll take the white balance, we'll click on something white. That's going to change it back to the proper white balance. And there we have a fairly decent image. Now let's go over to the JPEG. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to my exposure, and I'm going to have to crank this all the way up to 5 stops of latitude here to get a somewhat decent histogram. If I click on my white balance, I only have as shot or auto or custom, and I could try to change it around a little bit, but once I do, it's going to start degrading the image completely. Let's go ahead and try to get the white balance somewhat correct, and that still doesn't look 100% right. So you really don't have a lot of latitude of what you can do. You can see it's immediately degrading the image as soon as I start playing around with the sliders. Let's go back to the RAW file, and you can see how much cleaner it is. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any other further questions about shooting RAW or JPEG, come on down and see us. We're at 5039 Falls of Neuse Road in the Quail Quarter Shopping Center, corner of Falls of Neuse and Millbrook, or give us a call here at the store, 919-836-2222. So if you like this video, please do hit the like button. It really does mean a lot to us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as I put out new videos every single Friday, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what format you shoot in. Are you shooting RAW, or are you shooting JPEG, or now after watching this video, are you going to change? That's going to do it for this week's video, and I'll see you all next week.